enjoy these live interactions that we have with our guests that visit our studios. And this morning we're talking with the new National Assurance Companies, NNAC, 50 years leadership, trust, and the human face of insurance in South Africa. I quite like that, the human face of insurance. And we're talking to none other than the managing director at the new National Assurance Company, Kalim Rajab, live with me in studio. Kalim, salamu alaikum, an absolute pleasure having you in studio with us.
So nice to be here. Thank you for having me today.
Yes, I just want to talk about leadership trust, but I want to talk about the human face of insurance because it's the first time that I've heard, this cliche or this term actually being used. And let's just talk about this human face.
Absolutely. Ibrahim, our company has a slogan, people you can talk to. And we've been around as a community insurance company, actually. That's how we were founded in 1973, all those years back. And we say people you can talk to. We're not a company with call centers where you cannot speak to an insurance person about your claim if you're a broker or a client. And that is the ethos that we live by. We have to have the human touch.
Well, I'm sure, and this is the reason why you've built such a strong reputation where you are now for over more than 50 years in the insurance industry in existence as well. And just to understand the whole question surrounding the key to this longevity, sorry, I've just got tongue twister, but this goes into how you've survived for this period of time.
Yeah.
I know sometimes we do have these words, so sorry. My apologies. We all get tongue twisted.
That's okay. I'm glad it's you, not me. Usually I'm the one with the tongue twisters. But I would say that because it is not easy to run a successful insurance company, you need lots of capital. You need to have capital available to pay claims. And claims are by their nature uncertain. One can have fires, one can have floods, as we've seen. One could even have riots, as we've seen in our country in recent times. And so an insurance company needs to prove to its clients, to its policyholders, that it's a stable company with sufficient reserves to pay out in times of emergency. And so I think the secret for our longevity is that we are prudently run. We don't get it. We understand insurance, we understand risk and how to rate risk. And we know what we can provide and what we can't provide. And we are very clear about that to our partners. But prudency means that we have to always have sufficient reserves, that when clients have an emergency and they need to turn to an insurance partner, we are there to be able to have those reserves to pay our claims.
Well, absolutely. And I think, it's a huge responsibility as well. And it's also a trust that one would actually build, because when one looks at today's economy and the economic climate that we actually find ourselves in as well, and to be regarded for NNAC to be regarded as the largest empowered short-term insurer, that actually means a lot, but it also comes with responsibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I still remember the time where it's not so far away in the recent memory, around COVID time and around the riots, particularly in KZN. But around COVID time, this is when the country came to a standstill, but there were COVID claims that had to be paid. And some insurers tried to hide behind wordings and things like that. We took a different approach. We said the wordings are clear, and where we have COVID claims, we will honor them, but we'll also try to honor them quickly because clients need the money in their pockets to rebuild their businesses or whatever it is. In the same way with the riots, which came in 2021, it was a really difficult time. And I remember being on the ground, meeting clients to say, because many of their businesses were destroyed in a morning, in an afternoon. Businesses that I had known in the community, which had been built up over 40, 45 years, in one afternoon were destroyed. And so we had to be there on the ground to say to them, we will help you, we will assist you. Even if it comes to things like discussing how to quantify your claim, how to expedite that claim, we were there to support them. In the same way, you want an insurer when there are real emergencies, like the floods, which hit KZN. Now we are seeing it hitting in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape. You want an insurer who essentially says, we've got your back. An emergency is an emergency. And so when businesses are destroyed by a flood, you need to be back on your feet quickly. That's what our role really is.
Well, certainly, but also I think, you speak about three major events. We're talking about the pandemic. We speak about the KwaZulu-Natal riots. We speak about floods, and these are obviously by no means easy matters to deal with, even from an insurance perspective as well. But for you personally, because you've now been through the mill actually since 2020 when you became the MD, the managing director, just before COVID-19, and I'm sure there are a lot of lessons from a leadership perspective that you've actually learned during this period, and I'm sure these are valuable lessons.
I think so. Yeah, I did join. You're quite right. At a very difficult time, I was thrown into the deep end, and it, being a South African businessman or a South African leader, leadership is difficult generally. You're always learning all the time, but being a South African leader is particularly difficult because everything is so uncertain. There's so much fluidity, so much ambiguity about how you've got to conduct your run your business. And so I think the first thing that certainly I tried to do as a leader was to say, I don't know all the answers. Things are changing all the time, but you've got to be able to communicate frequently, certainly with your own people. You've got to talk to your employees all the time, take them into your council and try to say, let's come up with something together. It might have worked yesterday, but today things have changed. Let's try and work it out together. You can't do everything together because sometimes, leadership is also about taking the tough decisions by yourself because you can't please everyone. You've got to work out what is in the best interests of the company. But you've got to do that calmly and methodically and with the long term in mind, in my view. But also I try to say, but you've got to have a human touch to that. You can't just only think about the company without thinking about your staff, your people, and ultimately your policyholders. You've got to take decisions for them.
No, absolutely. And I think, when you speak about uncertainty, and we know at this point in time, we are in quite a precarious situation as well. There's all this talk about Afrophobia, xenophobia, June the 30th as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot is running at the back of your mind as an insurance company, because having been through the riots and, these are issues that, one actually needs to think about. And it's a difficult climate to be in. But again, how does one actually manage uncertainty? Because, for someone like yourself, I'm sure, how do you manage these uncertain times that we are witnessing around us?
Yeah, we are worried about this run up to the elections. And if you look at history and politics in our country, one always sees in the run up to particularly local government elections, this rise of xenophobia rearing up. And so there definitely is an increased political temperature in the country, and we believe it will be there until at least November. The one thing that we do is, so we try to assess that risk. We say to our policyholders, we'd like to work with you through your broker, but one of the things is increased or enhanced risk management. How to protect your businesses. Are you looking at things from that perspective? If you are worried about security, what are the things that you can be doing? Brokers are there. The brokers who work with us are very good at being able to have that conversation with policyholders. Because as our prophet says, believe in God, but tie your camel. You've got to be proactively protecting your asset.
Well, absolutely. But also, I think, when you look at it purely from a company's perspective, and, you mentioned, your policyholders. You speak about the people that you work with, the people that you interact with as well, and just looking at it from a service perspective,
Mm.
because you've maintained what is termed as an A claims paying ability rating over a decade.
Yes.
Now that is a long
Yes.
time, 10 years.
Yes.
And that obviously requires a lot. Financial stability is one, and also trust. How important are these two factors, financial stability and trust?
It is hugely important because when a client of ours through a broker insures with us, it is a contract of insurance, but it is a an article of faith that they're saying we put your trust in you, that you, if there is a claim, God forbid, you have the financial reserves to be able to honor our claim. So the A claims rating that we've had for, as you say, over a decade, also with what's called a stable outlook. So ratings agencies come to us, we open up our books, they see our entire balance sheet, and they look at things like how much cash do you have? Are you liquid? Are you solvent? What are your future prospects? All of those things go into giving a rating. And so we're very proud that we have an A rating.
No, absolutely. And I think, obviously this A rating doesn't come easy. And it's again, how the company is seen, how the company has been measured as well in terms of the success. And also, I think when one looks at the insurance industry in general, we know that it's a difficult industry to be in. There are just so many players in the insurance industry as well.
Yes.
And obviously, to maintain this A rating over a period of time really is by no means easy, but also it takes a lot of commitment, a lot of dedication, and again, offering that exceptional service that you would be offering.
Yes, absolutely. And you touched upon service. So I'd like to just also mention something about how we look at service. We haven't traditionally offered takaful insurance to our Muslim clients. And we've been quite prudent about how we go into the space because we know there's a demand for it. But at the same time, we also realize that traditional takaful insurance, might be suitable for another context. You can't just take that, cut and paste that, and put it into a local South African environment. We live in a non-Muslim majority society. We live in a non-homogeneous society, and so we said, how do we structure something for our primarily Muslim clients who who want a halal product? And so we've come up with, through our partner called ACNE, a wonderful insurance partner of ours, who write construction and engineering and plant and business insurance and liability insurance for us, for New National. We've constructed with them what we call a Islamic conscious insurance product. It's not a takaful, product. It's not Sharia compliant. We are very clear about that. But we tried to say, how do we come up with something that satisfies the need for businesses who want a halal and ethically based insurance product, but overlay that with the realities of the fact that we are in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have come up with what we believe is a very, very good and ethical product. If I may, takaful insurance has been through many iterations in this country. And we are now in what I would call the third iteration. The first and second iteration started big, but in my opinion, it got unnecessarily bogged down with sophisticated labels and things and structures, but didn't respond exactly to the client's needs. We are saying we are trying to structure a product where we are very clear with what it is and what it isn't, but it will respond as we define it so that there is no uncertainty, gharar, which is one of the key elements of halal insurance. So I'm very proud to say, from a service perspective, we have come up with, through the ACNE group of companies, our partner, an Islamic conscious product.
Well, that's what it's all about as well. Business about partnering as well.
Yes.
And, networking.
Absolutely.
Yes. But Kalim, insurance is oftenly misunderstood. And sometimes it's actually viewed as a grudge purpose.
Yes.
And just looking at it from NNAC and, how do you aim to actually make insurance, more accessible, firstly, and also understandable to ordinary South Africans?
Yes. Again, let me start. You could quite right. It is often seen as a grudge purchase. Why am I paying so much money for this? Why are my premiums going up? Let me start with what it isn't. Insurance. It actually starts from an Islamic perspective, in a sense. Insurance is not there to cover for foreseen or certain events. It is actually not there for things like maintenance cover. If there are losses to your house or to your car, and that's a maintenance-related thing. That is not the purpose of insurance. The purpose of insurance is that if there is an unseen or unforeseen event, which you could not predict with certainty, there's uncertainty around it. If there is a flood, if you have an accident that you in your car that you took adequate precautions around, but despite all of that, you had that accident, that is where insurance comes in. And it says, we will put you back in the condition you were in before as quickly as possible. And so for those people who I understand, who view it as a grudge purchase and say premiums have gone up so much, I would say, yes, but when you have a major event, I saw it in our clients' eyes when there were floods and their businesses were destroyed. When there are huge fires that we have every day and businesses collapse, we come in very quickly and say, that is when you really need us as NNAC, and that is when we will respond quickly.
Well, absolutely. In fact, I've been a victim of that unforeseen circumstance. In fact, it was a while back. I was in this very studio here at Salam Media, and my car was parked outside, and somebody decided to be on a cell phone, and it just took my car completely away. What I'm saying is these are the type of scenarios, and that one can actually obviously needs to look at as well.
Absolutely.
But just coming to the question about people, because it's all about, you mentioned the human touch, but it's also about your slogan, people you can talk to.
Absolutely.
Few words, but I'm sure it actually speaks volumes, and particularly when we're talking about, and you touch on that briefly as well, because we are in the era of automation, and I know many of us are actually frustrated when you need to talk to a machine and you've got that music playing in the background and you've got the messaging that is coming through as well.
Yes.
The whole, and it's mushroomed, call centers have actually mushroomed as well. But again, just to reiterate why that human touch and that human element is so critical, so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ram, we work primarily through brokers because we believe a broker is there to offer the best advice to the client. And so they need to understand our product very well. We only work with brokers who also are able to give excellent service to clients. And we say to those brokers, when you need to be in touch with us to discuss your client's claim or his product, we will not have call centers. So you can get through to me or my people very, very easily. We do have automation. We live in a world of digitization, but we try to do that for ourselves in the background. We don't want that coming necessarily to the front where we have to interact with our partners. We want that element to be human and our back end to have the good controls around digitization, automation, but we don't want that to come to the front.
Just looking at your vision as the managing director for the company, to looking at it uh, in the short term, in the medium term, and even in the long term, where do you see yourself going, personally and also as a company?
Yes, we're very proud that, as you said, we are the largest empowered insurer, short-term insurer in the country, and we want to further entrench that. Insurance and financial services, banking, insurance, etc., is not is not a very transformed industry, and there are very few black-owned, black-managed companies which are fully professional, um, who are professionally run, well reserved, and offer clients, what they say they do. We would like to further entrench our position as that, and that's what gives me confidence.
Well, certainly, and I'm sure you're still young, and I'm sure the sky is the limit for you, inshallah, and that is our dua for you as well, Kalim. But I must say, is there anything else you wish to add?
No, it's been lovely talking to you. Thank you for having me.
Well, an absolute pleasure having you in studio with us as well. And once again, we thank you. We say shukran to you for taking time out actually and visiting our studios as well. And I'm sure we will be touching base from time to time as well. But for now,
Absolutely.
all the best to you. We wish you all the best, all the success as well to you and as a company as well. Inshallah.
Jazakallah.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Absolutely.
The managing director of the new national assurance company, Kalim Rajab, was us in studio. And I must say, a fascinating discussion, but also at the same time, it's very, very heartwarming to see a company like this actually grow. And again, in an industry that is a very, very difficult industry. Sometimes it is dominated by big players, by huge, by massive players. But, to have what is called an A claims paying rating over a decade, that is by no means, uh, easy to achieve. But again, it's all about the company. It's about a vision. It's about a value system of a company as well. And that value system centered around people, because this is important. When you're talking about people, you're talking about your staff, you're talking about the brokers, you're talking about your clients, the policy holders, all of that. And really, I must say, it actually speaks a lot. And we obviously will continue engaging with people like Kalim Rajab. And this is what Salam Media is all about as well, because it's not only about profit, it's about leadership, it is about trust, it is about the human element. And that is why we subscribe to the ethos of humanitarian journalism as an independent media organization. And with that, before I take leave of you, just to remind you of the 2026 Al Aqsa tour. There are limited seats, 4th to the 15th of July, together with Maulana Musa Akudi as the spiritual guide. The package with tour guide Ayub Dadabai. Package includes return flights, breakfast, supper, and transfers, expert tour guides, 4-star hotels, 3 to 4 nights in Jordan, 7 nights in Aqsa as well, and explore some very historic places like the Petra Caves, Wadi Rum, and Amman as well. So contact Salam Media. There is still some space, but time obviously is running, and there is limited space. And with that, it's been a pleasure being with you and in the company of our listeners, our viewers on the various platforms of Salam Media on this Thursday morning. So from myself and the team here at Salam Media, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.